Let's do a couple more problems where we're thinking about factoring with the GCF, just in case we haven't really mastered it yet. Again, factoring, since it is that kind of guess and check, there's not really a set process to follow. You just have to try all the options. It takes a little bit till you get used to it, right? Till you get a feel for the numbers. So the more you practice, the better off you'll be. All right, 6x to the fourth plus 5x to the third minus 4 times x to the second. Well, I got to start by looking for my GCF. I always look for my greatest common factor before I do anything else. Well, 6, 5, and 4. Nothing's going to go into 6, 5, and 4. But you know what? I notice all of these have an x. That's not what I want. So I'm going to divide them. And let's see. This has 2 x's, so I must be able to take an x squared out of everything. Okay, well, what will that look like? My coefficient isn't going to change. If I had 4 x's and I took 2 of them away, now I've got x squared. 5 isn't going to change. If I had 3 x's and I'm taking 2 of them away, I've got 1x. And if I had 2 x's and I'm taking them both away, I have no x's. Look at that. That's a quadratic trinomial. We know how to factor a quadratic trinomial. We don't know how to factor this. This was a quartic or a 4th degree trinomial. We can't factor that. We can only factor a quadratic. We can only factor it if it's x squared. That's what we know how to do. Okie dokie. Well, again, I'm going to ignore this. I don't care about that anymore. I care about 6x squared plus 5x minus 4. All right, let's look at our options here. To multiply to be 6x squared, I could do 6 and 1 or 2 and 3. To multiply to be negative 4, I could do 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. And then since it's negative, it'd be a negative 1, a positive 4, a positive 1, a negative 4, and then my negative 2 and 2. All right, so I got quite a few options here. Let's see if we can narrow it down at all. I'm trying to multiply to be a 5. 6 and 1 seems kind of big, right? If I think about multiplying that by 2 or by 4, that'd be like 12 or 24. So maybe I'll start with my 2 and 3 just to see what happens here. And again, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I just have to go back. But I'm going to try my 2 and 3 and see if that works out. Okay, well, what do I want to try? I'll do a 4 and a 3. I'm just going to kind of try and do this in my head. 2x times 4x is 8x. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 8 minus 3 is 5x. Hey, look at that. A positive 5x. That's exactly what I wanted. First try. Don't you love when that happens? So if I put everything together, I'm going to have x squared times 2x minus 1 times 3x plus 4. There's my answer. And again, remember, it doesn't matter what order you put the factors in. We always put the GCF out in front just because that's our standard notation. But those other factors, doesn't matter what order they're in, because if we multiplied that whole thing together, both of them would equal that original polynomial. Let's do a couple more examples here. Negative 3x squared minus 24x minus 21. I notice that my a value is negative. I can't have that, so I have to factor a negative out. And remember, that just means everything that's negative becomes positive, positive becomes negative. Our signs just flip, okay? And then 3, 24, and 21, I could factor a 3 out of there. I'm going to do a negative 3. And then since I don't have a variable for all of them, I can't factor a variable out. So I think negative 3 is our GCF. I think we got everything we need. Well, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just 1. Negative 24 divided by negative 3 is a positive 8. Notice how my sign flipped. It was negative, now I'm adding. A negative 21 and a negative 3 is plus 7. It was subtracting, now it's adding. All right, so I'm going to put my GCF over here so I don't forget about it. Remember, that's got to be part of my final answer. And now I'm going to factor x squared plus 8x plus 7. All right, this one looks like right, one of the nice ones, because x squared, when that a value is 1, I only have one option. It's got to be x and x. Okay, so if I'm multiplying to be 7, well, that's 7 and 1, or negative 7 and negative 1, but I see I want it to be a positive 8. So if I want it to be a positive 8, really my only option is a plus 7 and a plus 1. If I put it all together, negative 3 times x plus 7 times x plus 1. There we go. That's our answer. Okay, one more. Negative 2x cubed plus 24x squared minus 22x. A lot of stuff going on here. That first term's negative. I can't have that. Going to factor a negative out. 2 goes into all of these. And they all have an extra x. So my GCF is negative 2x. What will I have? This will become x squared. This will become negative 12x. This will become positive 11. Notice how my signs flipped. That's what happens when I divide by a negative. All right, now I can factor. Don't care about this anymore. I care about x squared minus 12x plus 11. I like this. I have limited options because x squared, all I can do is x times x. Multiply to be 11. I've got 2 options. I've got the positive option or the negative option. Well, if I want it to add to be negative 12, it's got to be a negative 11 and a negative 1, right? Because the other option, this would be a positive 12, but I want a negative 12. Put it all together, and what have we got? Negative 2x times x minus 11 times x minus 1. There's our factored form. Beautiful. And that's factoring with a GCF. So you always, always, always look for a GCF. There might not be one, but you always have to ask yourself if there's a greatest common factor before you do anything else.